Don't make me do it.
I'm not gonna make you do it. Let's just make this the opening. John just asked me, "Can I do the opening?" And then immediately said, "I don't know how to do the opening."
I don't. I've never done it.
Well, this is a different episode, so it could be a different opening.
What's up, lore heads
What's
and
up,
lore
lore
legs?
What?
I thought it'd be cool, kind of like ladies and gentlemen, like lore heads and lore legs. I don't know which is which.
Is that the two genders? This is where we normally, oh God, take off my cardigan and knock into the microphone. Explore the League of Legends lore from A to Z. But today we're not doing that because Mark's busy.
You know, with stuff.
With a baby. I think he'll know. People will know by then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, baby stuff.
Yeah. He's got a little new baby. And ours is like 2 months old now. So she's fine, obviously.
Yeah.
We just like
she's
threw her on
raising
the ground.
herself.
Yeah.
She's already learned the violin.
No, she's sleeping, and we've been whispering for a really long time because it took us way too long to get her to sleep, and now I'm terrified she's going to wake up in the middle of this, so... And you're not even looking at the monitor, honey.
Yeah, we'll hear noise.
I gave you the responsibility of holding it, and then it's just sitting face down in your lap. Anyway, we're going to talk about our history with League of Legends. I think is when we were brainstorming what other episodes can we do ourselves, because John, I mean... We've been playing League together on and off for like the entire 10 years of our relationship, I would say. I didn't know about League before I met you, but...
It was like one of our first, I mean, it was definitely our first like big trip or anything like that once we were dating.
Yeah.
It was like pretty early on in the relationship. I was like, man, this is weird, but like I have a +1 to this like, you know... all expense paid trip to Vegas to go to this thing for my company. Like, is it weird to ask you this early? Or...
Yeah, I think the trip itself was we would be dating for 3 months, if I remember, something like that. But you asked me like not the first month of the relationship, but very close to that.
I needed confirmation early.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we needed to have sign-ups early.
Yeah. I also think they needed to be Facebook official, and that's when we became Facebook official, was to go on that date. Because we were in this awkward position of not knowing how to approach that. Both of us had like just gotten out of really long-term relationships that like existed before Facebook, or very close to the beginnings of Facebook. So we didn't know how to navigate the new adult relationship with Facebook, which is the most millennial thing I've ever fucking said in my life. Anyway, while we watched The Office, so why did you start playing League? How long had you been playing League before we met?
I started playing League in 2011.
Okay, so it was a year before we started
like
dating.
Right at the beginning, maybe even early 2010. But yeah, I was working at Disney at the time. My friend Benson was like, "Hey John, I got this game. I think you're going to be really into it. I'm going to warn you ahead of time. You're going to get real fucking addicted. So just know that. But here, check it out." So I did, and I was like, you know what? You're right. This fucking slaps. And we were both kind of on our way out of Disney too, so both of us like at the same time were like, let's just fucking go to Riot, you know? This seems so cool. Let's just go there. So we did.
Yeah, and that was new. Riot was still really new when
was.
you went there. Yeah.
This was back when Mark and Brandon were still personally interviewing
Not our
everybody
Mark.
who applied.
Oh God! So you interviewed?
So I interviewed with Mark Merrill and Brandon Peck.
No fucking press.
Yeah, they called me when I was at Disney when I was still working. I was like, oh shit, I gotta go on break real quick.
That's wild.
It's nerve-wracking.
I don't know if I knew that you interviewed with them or that I forgot, or maybe when you told me I didn't like understand the weight of that, the significance of it. Now I've seen them on the premiere of Arcane.
Yeah,
so they're really important.
I interviewed with Mark. I interviewed with Brandon. If you go to Riot, you have to interview with like 20 fucking people. But I interviewed with Mark and Brandon. I interviewed with Christian Link. He was one of the people who interviewed me. We talked about music and
Wow,
composition.
God, you really got in deep with all the important Riot people.
I interviewed with Steve Mescon, who, if you don't know, is like one of the founders of Dota.
Jeez.
He, at least the founders of the community of Dota. It's the cats playing with the...
I know. I'm so afraid they're going to wake her up.
Oh, no, she's fine.
Okay.
So, yeah, I had to interview with him. I had to interview with like 5 people from the customer service team. It was an ordeal.
Yeah. Do you think you'd still be playing League if you didn't work at Riot?
It's
if you
tough.
never got that job?
I don't know,
Yeah,
honestly.
I don't know if you would have. That is a tough one.
Yeah, it's... Because I wouldn't have had people as into it probably that would have been like, oh man, you gotta try it, like new update just released, like it's good now. Because I mean, League went through some rough patches there, like we all stopped playing for certain points too, but like I don't know, without knowing so many people in the community, I don't know if I would have stuck around as much.
Yeah, I mean, they encouraged you to play League when you were there too, so a lot of my early League days was when I was a temp at Riot, and we would play a lot of ARAMs. I feel like you would just get 10 people in the office. They'd kind of be like, hey, we want an ARAM. And people would just start playing ARAMs. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very big. Pretty much everyone there had to play. That was kind of a prerequisite. It was from the early days. It was like an eat your own dog food mentality where like early on the game sucked and nobody was playing it. And I think it was Steve Snow or some shit like that. Was like, why aren't you guys playing our game? Like, oh, it's not good. Like, well, you're fucking making it. Make it good. Like, don't play play your game until it's good.
Yeah. No, it's important. And you didn't have that at like Disney. You worked for Disney in the gaming area there, and it was definitely run by a lot of people who did not give a shit about games at all.
Yeah, super corporate, super executive. They just like bring over somebody who like, you know, ran Yahoo and was like, hey, you own the games now. You know what makes games good, right? I distinctly remember being invited as like a customer service agent into a meeting with a bunch of the developers and executives and things. And they're like, we want Pirates of the Caribbean to be the next World of Warcraft. And I was like, how many of you guys have played World of Warcraft? Not a single one of them had fucking played World of Warcraft. My God. Not one of them.
You get that in so many different communities too. In general, just saying statements like that is really like egregious and stupid. But yeah, that's like being like, I want the next Harry Potter series. You know what I mean? You're just like, okay, well, you're not going to get that. Sorry. Can you come up with your own shit?
Right.
I started playing League probably about a year later when we met. I don't know how long we were dating before you made me play League for the first time. And I also don't know if it was before or after that Vegas trip.
I don't know. I definitely put it in my OkCupid profile that I spent a lot of my time playing League. That was part of it.
I had never heard of it, and I had no idea what it was, so I don't remember that being in your profile at all. I just saw that bod and was like, it gotta happen.
That slamming bod. Look at him with the apron on, grilling.
Yeah, but we'll talk about like because we've been to a lot of esports events, but my first esports event was that Vegas trip, and I knew nothing about League, so I might have played the tutorial because you made me play the tutorial first.
Back when it was Ash Thornmail.
Yes. Stay behind your minions. And I still just say that sometimes, I feel like, when we're playing. Because it was so good. But I definitely knew, like, even with that tutorial, if that was before the esports event, I knew fucking absolutely zilch about League when I saw that first event.
Just like everyone else who finished our old tutorial.
But I distinctly remember playing League for the first time. It is like seared into my memory a couple of things about it. I never really played PC games by then, and I'd never played a MOBA in my life. I didn't even know it was called a MOBA or what it was. I didn't know. But I just remember I was so nervous playing it in front of you, and I felt really self-conscious, and I kept taking my hand off the mouse. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, I would you would tell me where to go, and I would click it, and then I would take my hand off the keyboard and mouse
look to me for further instructions.
And sit back and then look at him like, what do I do next? At some point you were like, you could just keep your hand on the mouse. It'll probably make it easier. I just so distinctly remember that.
It was like the equivalent of the people that play DDR and always go back to the middle in between every
It
step.
was. I think I even brought that up because I was a big DDR nut. Honestly, not even exaggerating that one. I played a lot of DDR back in the day. Yeah. But that was why and when I first started playing League. It was because of you. But who was your first champion besides Ash?
My first champion, and I never played the tutorial. So
your first champion you played.
My first champion was like ever. I think the first one I played semi-regularly, but before I knew what a main was.
Can I guess?
Yeah.
Was it Tryndamere?
It was Tryndamere.
Fuck yeah. Okay.
It was. I would say Tryndamere and Xin Zhao both was pretty even.
That's so funny. You don't really play them now ever.
I know. I only played Twisted Tree Line. When I started at Riot, I had never played Summoner's Rift.
Oh wow.
My very first game of Summoner's Rift was my first day in the office, and I obviously had no idea what fucking lane assignments were or any shit like that. So I was playing Tryndamere, and they were like, okay, I mean, you're going bot. I was apparently supposed to be supporting, but I didn't know what that meant. So I was playing Tryndamere and got my shit kicked in by Isona on the other side.
Was this when the guy got mad at you?
Yes, one of the guys on the tech team got so fucking mad at me after the game. I had never played Summoner's Rift. After the game, he slammed his desk, walked out of the closet, basically, which is where we were back in the day, and walked into the closet of the team that was right next door to us, and we're like, did you see that fucking guy? I can't... And I was just sitting in the room like, oh I can hear everything you're saying.
If I found that man, I would beat the shit out of him today. No, I wouldn't, but... Yeah, I remember you telling me that. What a dick. It was a normal game, even. Whatever.
You know, some people take their league more seriously than others.
We made a list of questions. The next one
what was your first?
Well, I was going to say, the next question is first main, and my first main and my first champion were the same, and it was Caitlyn. Because you made me play Caitlyn because you thought that would be the easiest.
Yeah, at the time, it was.
Yes, I was going to say, because we did later think maybe talking about champions that we miss the old versions of, and I do sometimes miss the old Caitlyn, because now I can't play Caitlyn. She's too complicated for me. There is like a very specific series of keys you need to hit in order to do max damage with Caitlyn, and I don't fucking know what they are. So
remember back in the day, the first time somebody hit that net Q combo and people were like, what the fuck?
Was huge. So I knew how to play Caitlyn at the time. So when John had like news about a big like, you know, champion thing, that was the first time I ever heard of like a new play being discovered. It's really funny to think about these big things because people do shit like this all the time.
Right.
But at the time, that was like a really big deal. You were like, okay, so he used the net and it slowed the enemy. So then he was able to hit the Q and not dodge, which I thought was like whatever, because I played at below bronze level and no one dodged my fucking Qs anyway. I just missed them. So I didn't know what that meant. That was also the time when like at some point you stopped using Caitlyn's Qs because it would never do more damage than auto attacks.
This was back in the day.
Useless.
Where, like, if you queued late game, you were a fucking scrub.
Yeah,
because
you were wasting time. It took too long, and auto attacks did more damage.
Yeah, that's why I had you play Caitlyn, because I had tried showing a few people the game, and one of the biggest things I noticed was that the most confusing things for new players was remembering abilities. So I was like, who can I give her that the abilities don't mean shit? I was like, fucking Caitlyn. Using the abilities is a waste.
Yeah. So John would always support me, and I would play AD carry. That was how we played League for a long time, which now I just support, and he plays whatever he wants in the bot lane.
I used to be a Sona main when I started playing. So, and it was because I got my shit kicked in so bad. That is literally the reason I started maining Sona. I was playing Tryndamere. I got beat so bad by a Sona. I was like, I'm going to pick up Sona. I mained her for a while until Ben Huang made me pick up Tarek, and then I mained him for a while.
You did main Tarek. Well, so was Sona your first main then?
Probably.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. I remember you being proud of me for things that are so dumb now too. Like you were watching me play and I put like a trap in a spot where I thought I might get ganked, and you were like, "Oh, I see you put in a trap where you might get." You were like so impressed. Not really. It was just like he's like, "Oh, that bitch finally listened to me and did something."
I was.
Okay. Then our next question was the first champion that made you realize what role you prefer. So I would say you really main top, preferably. Is that it?
Yeah, it was Kennen.
It was Kennen. Yeah, I figured.
When I started playing, actually, because I never spent, to this day, I have not spent money on this game other than gifting Rebecca RP.
You did, and that was like a month ago.
That was the first time I had spent money on this game. So when I started, I only had the free rotation champions, and I wanted a ninja. That's all I wanted. And I remember Shen showed up on the free rotation. I was like, fucking finally, look at this guy. This guy's a ninja. And then I played him, and this was even old Shen, when he was just straight tank.
Yeah.
And I played him, and I was like, that did not feel like a ninja. That sucked, especially because, like, I didn't know how to use my ult either. I was useless, but... so I was like, all right, well, that sucks. I guess there's no ninja. And then Kennen came on free rotation. I was like, oh, no, this is it. He's got fucking shurikens and shit. He's fast. He's speedy. Look at the little guy.
And he's still your favorite.
He's still my favorite.
Yeah.
I love him to this day.
I feel bad you never get to play him because you always want to lane with me.
Oh, it's well worth it.
Thanks, hun. And speaking of Sona, that was a champion who made me realize I wanted to be support. And I remember the first Sona game that I really played, that I was like, I felt like I did something this game. Which, I mean, with Sona, especially back in the day, you just kind of press the heal button and like follow people around. But it was still like the most useful I'd ever felt. Which it's funny now to think about. Well, I didn't put this on here, but I guess the first time you picked up your current main, but I think your current main would still be Kennen.
Yeah.
My main would be Zyra, and that was all ARAMs. ARAM has like changed the champions that I like to play. I still like Sona and like Lulu, and Lulu was one of my favorite supports in the beginning too, that I was like, oh yeah, I really like playing support. I do remember you getting mad at me during that Sona game though.
Oh no.
Not like mad. You were kind of mad. It was because I was using my other abilities besides heal, and then when you needed me to heal, I didn't have any mana, and you died, and you were like, yeah, just don't like use your other abilities, just like save your mana for the heal. And I didn't totally agree with you, but I shut up because I was like, well, I guess he knows more than I do.
That's probably just after they nerfed her Q. That's my guess.
Maybe. I don't know.
Back in the day, you used to have to go aggro Sona because her Q could like half health someone.
If I were to guess, it was you didn't trust me to go aggro Sona, which is fair because this was a very long time ago when I would not have gone aggro Sona. But I don't know. So the next question was the first champion that confused you when you played against them. Okay,
I have such a fucking vivid memory of this.
I don't. And this was your question, so I'm glad that you have a good answer for it.
It was I think it was an early game for sure. It was after I had started playing Summoner's Rift. But like I still hadn't played against all the champions or with all the champions or anything like that. The very first time I got put up against Karthus, I kept killing him and I'd be like, hell yeah, I'm so fucking good at this game. And then he would always ult me after he had died and I would die. And I remember someone in my bot lane was like, could you stop feeding this fucking Karthus? I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I keep killing him. I'm doing so well. I don't understand how I'm dying.
Oh, you didn't read the abilities.
I couldn't read the abilities. I didn't own him.
I don't know if I have a champion that like genuinely confused me, at least not a strong memory like this. I do remember though, I have some memories of playing games at the Riot office with like your friends and stuff. And we would do 5v5s. So you're playing against, people who were in the same room as you and stuff like that. It was generally fun. But I was like level 15, I think. Did not know what I was doing. And I was laning against Jordan. And we both picked Corki.
Oh, God.
And Do you ever have a memory where you thought you were doing well at something and then you realized that they were just being nice? Because that's what I remember. Is Jordan was just being really nice. He didn't let me kill him or anything, but he was like being nice.
Not
and then at some point,
or...
and then at some point he just easily killed me. And I was like, oh no. And then people were making fun of him. They're like, oh, you feel good about that, Jordan? You feel good? You just killed that level 15 person who doesn't know how to play this fucking game. It's like, I know now that he probably could have like annihilated me that whole time. And now knowing, like, years went by, I still knew Jordan, and he was decent at the game. Like, Jordan was pretty good.
He was gold at a time where there were only like 5 rankings.
So he probably would have been like
there was
plat,
only like
right?
yeah, probably.
And like, I'm certainly not plat level. Yeah. So, oh Jesus, thinking about that. Your first summoner name?
My first summoner name was Yohisi Tu Madre. Which is a screen name I've had since I was, since AOL's inception, like Instant Messenger. And I couldn't pick a name, so I asked my sister what I should pick, and she was like, Yohisi Tu Madre. I was like, oh, okay. What does it mean? She's like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's like, okay, fair enough. You took Spanish, not me. I trust you. So that was my name for everything well before I knew that it meant, you know, I did your mom, which my sister found fucking hilarious.
Of course.
And then when I started at Riot, I was like, I should pick a different name. This shouldn't be my red name. In case red name is like the official Rioter name, because when you post it on forums, your name would be red. I was like, I can't have this. I need to make a new account. So I made a new account, but basically they were asking me for my name so that they could put it on a shirt when I was first hired.
Oh.
And I panicked. I was like, I had to like come up with a name really, really quick. And that's why like Chronopolis CC just like popped into my head, and like I immediately regretted it.
And you kept that name for a long time.
I still have it.
Oh, you do? Yeah.
I still have it. I've never liked it.
Why don't you change it?
Because I don't want to spend the RP.
Are you fucking kidding me, John? Change it.
No.
Match mine.
It's me now.
That's true, honestly. It would be fucking buck wild for you to get a different name.
What was your first name?
Mine was Kunat Chuta Solo, which was my, that was like my Xbox gamer tag back in the day, which is, I was like, this is my gamer name now. People rarely got it.
I'm trying to remember whether I got it, because I remember you told me on our first date.
Yeah. If you say it like that, you have to say Kunat Chuta Solo, and then people usually get it.
Yeah. I think you may have said it like that, and I got it.
And then you got it. Yeah. But I think once or twice in like the 8 years I had that name, people said something to me in chat. I changed it very recently for the first time. And it was oh my god. Oh, Ginger Rogers, but Ginger was like JHIN. And then Sarah changed hers to Fed Astaire, which that was our little bit of humor. She's still Fed Astaire, but I changed mine to Beckworm just because I was going to stream on Twitch under Beckworm, and I kind of like had started using that as my name on things. I do kind of miss Kunat Chuta Solo sometimes because it was just like the name for so long. There's like a fondness there, but
you could probably create another account. I doubt anyone's taken it.
They will now. I don't care. Someone can take it.
Just like someone immediately took Kaisa Pants.
Did they? I told you to make it one called Kaisa Pants because you have to.
That's
right. It was good. All right. The first lore you were interested in.
First lore I was interested in.
I'm sure you heard some things in passing. Do you remember the first lore that you were like, oh, that's kind of cool? Did like maybe looked more into it, or?
It was part of the Journal of Justice. I remember when I started playing, I read a few of the Journal of Justice things, and like, it didn't click with me at first. Like, I didn't know what it was supposed to be. I had never heard of most of the champions that were being referenced before. Not all the articles even referenced champions. So to me, it was just like a newspaper with legitimate political beef, which like, it's like, all right, well, that's kind of boring. I'm not invested in this world, and I'm not interested in any of that shit. So I didn't read it for a long time. And I remember there was one, I don't remember the specific article, but there was one Journal of Justice article that finally Oh, you know what it was? I think it was when Crystal Scar, the Crystal Scar,
You just like
Crystal
Crystal Scarl.
when the Crystal Scar came out, they had released a whole thing about that, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. They have like this article in the Journal of Justice that's about the Crystal Scar, and I think that's when it clicked to me. I was like, wait, all these articles are about in-game things. I get it now.
Oh my god. Oh, I don't know if I have an answer for this one, to be honest. I'm really trying to think about it if there was lore that I was interested in. The first lore that I knew was like Lux and Garen were siblings, and Garen and Katarina were a thing romantically. Like, this was old stuff that people. I would say probably the first lore that I was like, oh, that's actually interesting was Vi and Jinx, I think. And that was something that they made a big deal about. We kind of talked about it in, I think, Jinx's episode. That, like, she had kind of hijacked the website and there was spray paint on it. I was in general just looking forward to Jinx's release, which at the time I wasn't really interested in new champions releases, but hers was so fun and she was so unique and she was the first small titty champion, so I was really excited about that.
Yeah.
I liked her
the
look
first
a lot.
one we did a music video for.
Yes, and the music video was amazing.
Fucking bop.
Yeah, and I don't recall not knowing that Jinx was Vi's sister, so we must have put that together very quickly. Or you did, and you told me, like, oh yeah, Vi's sister Jinx. And it was like before she was even fucking released, y'all. Everybody knew. But yeah, I definitely remember that appealing to me, I think, early and the most. How's she doing? I know she's kind of awake
Yeah, she's
and moving around a bit.
yeah, she's fine.
Okay.
She's not making noises.
The next one was mine. This question was mine, and you were unsure about it. And it was like the history of your league training. And I'm only asking this because at Riot, people would occasionally train other people in League of Legends. The only time I remember getting this didn't work out very well. I was playing Ahri mid. At the time, I thought maybe I'll try some mid, and I tried Ahri. And it was Faye, actually, who was assigned to me. And as we were all playing, we were all like the same level of people, 5 of us playing. And it was like clear they didn't train the trainers and what they should tell us. And I think all of the trainers were just kind of like standing there awkwardly, not knowing what to tell us what to do. And the only thing I remember is like, do you ever like look back on old League games and you just realize like the dumb noob shit that you did? Like, yes. Yeah, we kept like not having any vision in the jungle, and we just kept like going mid, and then they would come out of the jungle and kill us, and that just happened over and over again because we were stupid. We didn't know how to play the game, and at some point it happened, and one of the people who was supposed to be training us is like, "Oh yeah, I saw that coming," and I was like, "Why didn't you fucking say that? You're supposed to be training us in this game. Why would you just stand there and silently think like, oh, they're all about to die and not fucking say anything?" Anyway, I don't think it was Faye. It was somebody else. I don't know who it was. But that's the only training I remember getting. Did not pay off.
Yeah.
I learned nothing.
Aw.
It's okay.
I did do an internal training. And it was on Graves, actually, like right when Graves came out.
I gotta fill my wine. Hang on. You can keep going. But...
You'll be able to hear the bag squeezing because
Yeah.
that's how she's drinking her wine.
I get box wine, and I'm at the end of the box, which means you take the bag out of the box and you squeeze it.
Yeah.
Oh god, I spilled it.
Oh, how could this have happened?
Shut up.
You had a super controlled bag squeeze going on.
I was bouncing it on my knee really stupidly. So I'm also trying to look at our daughter because I'm nervous about her
Now
being
she's
awake.
back asleep.
Okay. It took us like 5 hours to get her to sleep. Okay, I'm just really nervous about her staying asleep right now. And she was so mad at me the whole time.
Yeah, I remember though. I got trained in Graves.
I didn't even need to squeeze any more out. I just wanted to do it again while I started talking. Okay, anyway, he got trained in Graves. This was old Graves.
This was old Graves. This was very old Graves. Who was my first AD carry main. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was uneventful. It was like the first time they had done this sort of training. So I mean, there was not a lot going on. I'm pretty sure it was actually in our original office, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't even think we had moved to the good office. Our original office was just
A closet.
well, yeah. Our room was a closet with no windows or lights. But the office itself for Riot was they just rented out random rooms in an office park, and like they weren't even connected, so like you'd have to go up to like one floor for like one division and then a different floor for like a different group, and you could accidentally walk in on other companies because their doors were right next to each other and they weren't fucking labeled. Like, but yeah, that's where I was trained on how to play Graves.
Yeah, and then when you and Mark did the Riot Rumble, you had a coach for that. I imagine that was some training. I know it was Ben, and it was mostly just Get Good.
Yes, he was.
Before Get Good was a meme, so he didn't say that.
Yeah.
That's how long ago this was.
Get Good, Scrubs. And then Be Brave. That was his other big one.
He would say Be Brave, yeah.
Yeah. Because we all played two paths. And maybe I attribute that to my hyper-aggression now. Maybe that's why I do dumb things.
Honestly, that's a really good point. I didn't think of that. Because you are hyper-aggressive in game. Which is why sometimes I do think that you should go back to being the support in lane, and that I should do the quote AD carry. Neither of us really play AD carry properly these days because like we're not good at it. We just pick some troll shit. Because like I think when you're duo, it's generally better when the support is the aggressive one. I mean, with some exceptions, but generally I think the support should be the aggressor.
They set the tone of the lane.
Yeah.
A lot.
And you're definitely, and when the AD carry follows through, that usually works better. Whereas when you jump in with Tristana and I'm a million miles away from you,
I'm
and
jumping
you're like, and you always
distance be damned.
You always act like it's my fucking fault that I'm not there. By the way, and you're like, yeah, well, when she's alone, I'm gonna go in, and I'm like, I get that, but your jump is a lot faster than my bootless ass walking because I'm level 4. I always
make the call mid jump too.
You do. And you get so pissed at me that I'm not fucking there. Like,
there's no wind up or anything. I just jump in. I'm like, I'm going in after I'm already in.
I don't
after
know.
I've already been pike stunned out of my grasp.
I cannot tell if I'm more or less angry that you realize that you're fucking wrong. Because in the moment, I'm like, you seem like you're very disappointed in me for not being with you. Like I should be there. Like I should mind read. But no. Apparently this whole time, like, oh no, I'm jumping in way too early.
Oh yeah, but you gotta, because Ben said to be brave.
Okay.
That's what and then we did our finals on stage, and the coaches were allowed in comms, and the other coach was like standing behind his team, like, giving instruction and everything. And ours refused to look at the game. He walked around the crowd. He had a beer in his hands the whole time.
Oh,
like,
I distinctly
remember.
Got this. Yeah, I very much remember Ben walking around with a beer and not paying attention to the game at all as you guys won, with the coach desperately trying on the other team to help. Yeah, I remember that.
Triumphant moments.
I still associate like Tarek with you because you played Tarek in those games, and Mark played Rise and Cassiopeia. Those were like his two main champs, and I still associate those two champs with him, even though he doesn't really fucking play them anymore. But
and Tam was our top line then. He played Kennen and Akali.
Yeah, I remember Akali specifically.
Our jungler played Nautilus and Maokai.
I remember Maokai. I don't remember Nautilus, funnily enough.
Yeah, he was one of their
You don't see the junglers as much, though, and I was obviously paying attention to you and, like, Mark, because I knew him. Okay. Let's talk about live events. We wrote first live event. And what was your first live event? Was it Vegas?
No, my first live event, I think, was actually... it was Vegas, but not that Vegas.
Oh, okay.
It was an IPL event in Vegas. It was when Moscow 5 was there. This was back when IPL was like a huge deal in Vegas, and they would get like teams from kind of all over the world to compete in like this tiny ass room. And you could just go. I don't even remember buying tickets. I feel like I just showed up and went, but yeah, it was crazy, like seeing Moscow 5 at their prime at this like random ass IPL event. We saw Skara playing Soraka mid and getting Soraka nerfed after that. Like,
we'll have to post I think you have a picture with Skara, right?
We do have a picture of Skara.
I don't, not we, you. I'm not there. This was, I think we were dating, but we had just started dating. I remember seeing these pictures like posts on Facebook, and he told me how like fucking smashed you got because you got really drunk.
Yes, I missed a lot of the games.
Yeah, he got super sick. Yeah, but we definitely have a pic of you and Scara, I think. And I did not understand the significance when you showed it to me. And you were like, oh, it's me with Scara. And I was like, what the fuck is that? I don't know what you're talking about. Now I'm like, what? You got to meet Scara?
Right? Especially now, because now Scar is a big TFT player too, so he just keeps being an idol to me.
Yeah.
How about you? Oh, it was the
It
Vegas
was the
one.
other Vegas event. So what was that called?
That was our Riot trip that year.
Yeah, what did they call that series? That like
Oh,
that little competition that they did. Basically,
it was an all-star series.
okay. So I think if I remember correctly, they had 5 pro players playing against the 5 best Riot employees.
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, the Riot employees got annihilated.
Fucking smash. And these were like the 5 best Riot employees were all still
They're all
like Challenger level players.
yeah.
I mean, we didn't have Challenger at that time. This was before Challenger was a thing.
Yes,
but
and not only that, but I think I don't think there was a language barrier with the 5. There was. So they didn't all even speak the same language. The pro players. It didn't matter.
I think Mac Noon only spoke Korean.
Yeah, Mac Noon was there. Who else played? I know Dyrus was one, right?
Snoopy was there.
Snoopy. Oh.
It was like Snoopy, Mac Noon, Dyrus. I forget the other 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't know. I just remember Dyrus. That's funny. I would say, so speaking of Snoopy, I feel like the first team I got into was CLGEU, right? Because that was Snoopy, Crepo, Froggen. Those are the 3 I remember. Oh, Yellow! Sorry. Yellow Pete. Yellow Star was somebody else.
God, who was their top laner?
I don't remember.
Oh, God. I want to say Soaz, but I don't think it was Soaz.
Yeah, that was the first team I remember liking very shortly before I became a Voyboy fan. And then I just liked whatever team Voyboy was on because he was my favorite. But yeah, that event was a lot of fun. I remember you were so kind and like standing there and explaining the significance of everything to me, because occasionally like a champion would get picked and people would be like, whoa, like I think like Master Yi got locked in or something, and people were
Mac
freaking
Noon
out.
playing Master Yi. Mac Noon played Master Yi and Jungle Nasus in that game.
Yeah, this happened. I think this a best of like 3 or 5 or something like that.
I think it was a best of 5.
Yeah,
maybe a best of 3.
It was more than one game.
Yeah,
and I think very quickly the pro players realized that this wasn't a competition, so they trolled really hard in the second game and still kicked their ass. So, but I didn't get the significance of these. I wish I could go back and like watch it now with like what I know about League. But yeah, you would just kind of explain like why a champion was like, you know, getting a reaction from the crowd and stuff like that. This was like, I think one of the first big events Riot really did for its employees. And I remember all of the waitresses were dressed as
Nursicali.
They were, quote, Nursicali.
Nurse outfits.
Yeah, all of the waitresses were wearing nursing uniforms. And there is a photo of the 2 of us surrounded by a bunch of hot nurse waitresses.
Yep. They had a Jabberwocky perform.
I think you're wearing a fedora in that picture.
I am. I wore a fedora a lot in my time at Riot.
Yeah. I wouldn't go around bragging about that
but
one.
But it was cool as hell.
I look like a smoke show in that picture, though, because I was like 23.
You always look like a smoke show.
So I would not be able to wear that dress now.
That was our second Riot event. The first one was like a cruise to Mexico.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which was my first week there.
Wow. Yeah, Sarah went with you on that. You guys were still together for that one, right? Yeah, wild. Yeah. But we've been to a lot of events together. I think we also talked about memorable live events. Do you have like a most memorable? I would say I have a couple. Season 2 Worlds.
Season 2 Worlds is easily my most memorable.
Yeah, that John went to Season 1 Worlds, which was really like not Worlds.
Well, I didn't go.
Oh, okay, you weren't there.
I was technically in Sweden because it was during DreamHack. But I had to work that night. They needed volunteers. Like, we need people in player support to like work overnight that night because Worlds is going on. It's in Sweden. In case we get questions, we need people.
Okay.
So I watched the whole thing because we were all watching who were working that night.
Oh, that must have been fun.
It was a lot of fun.
But Season 2 was in an arena, not as big as they do now. If you compare Season 2 to like Season 10 Worlds, it's going to seem really small and like not a big deal. But it was such a big deal at the time. it being in an arena, an orchestra came out and played the theme song, and you got very emotional. I remember when that happened.
Yeah, it was huge, and it was something that Christian Link had composed. It was fucking
Yeah.
gorgeous. They had an orchestra and a full choir performing it.
Which
And,
that was their opening ceremony that year, which again, very
it seems
small.
quaint
Yeah.
now, but it was big, and like
Yeah.
the whole arena, like the lights were off and everyone had like the glowing thunder sticks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was kind of like a culmination of like my entire life's like me telling people that someday this was going to happen and everyone telling me I was a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And then it happened.
It's hard when you're like really into games as a kid. Some people will kind of, at the time, I mean, we got into video games as children when gaming systems were still kind of new in households. So people didn't realize how big this was going to get. And so you're kind of belittled sometimes for having a passion for gaming when it was seen as a waste of time, which even if it doesn't become a career for you, gaming is never a waste of time if you're enjoying doing it, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, that's wild to think about. I didn't even really think about the fact that we grew up in a time when you can't say that to a kid now. Like, oh, this isn't going to give you a career, because it might.
Right,
for
I'll
a
just
kid.
point to like that fucking 13-year-old who won the Fortnite championship.
And then just some unboxing video and got 8 million views. Yeah, that's a top one for me. And also an underdog one that year.
Yeah.
It was Korea versus Taipei. The Taipei Assassins won that year. Oh, by the way, Korea had only had the game for like 6 months, I think. They didn't even have it. They got the game that year and made it to the World Finals.
Yeah, it was fucking
we never
wild.
had a shot. But that was a lot of fun. That World. It didn't even get to 5 games. Did it get to 5 games? I think it got to 4.
I think it was 4.
Yeah, but that was really fun. And then the other event that stands out to me for a negative reason were these playoffs, or
I think they were the playoffs.
We were in LA. We were watching. Was it Worlds playoffs? Okay,
Yeah.
so it was Worlds playoffs, and it was like so cool because it was like this whole
CLGEU was playing.
Yeah, and it was like an outdoor event, so you can go outside, and then there were bars around that if you went into a bar, the TVs at the bars were playing the game that was happening outside. It was really cool.
Very cool.
And then the internet. No, what happened? The
internet.
It was just
down.
The internet went down. The internet went down.
Because
at the end,
it was the very end of like a 90-minute game.
It was because this used to be pretty more common,
especially
games would be longer.
CLGEU.
CLGEU
They were like
had a history
notorious because like, oh, just put Frog in, give him a Nivea, and just stall the game out until he's full build.
They would intentionally stall games out until gold leads didn't matter. Yeah, and you were able to do that then. So yeah, there was this game. It was going on for like 90 minutes. This was when the word cheering started, because the game had been going on so long, nothing was happening, that people started cheering when they would kill a ward. And then right as a team fight was starting that was going to determine the game, it crashed and the internet went down. And they changed everything due to this happening.
Yeah.
But they had to cancel.
Almost overnight, they had figured out how to have
their own
private servers built on Linux.
Yeah.
It's like
immediately they were like, we got to fucking figure this out.
For like forever, people had been telling them like, you should figure this out. And they're like, it's fine. And then after this event, they had it figured out immediately.
Yeah. They had to cancel the rest of the day. And some Riot employees were very emotional, obviously very upset. That was like their entire career was just crumbling for a second there. Yeah. That was wild.
Yeah, I feel like that was, God, what was his name? His last name was also Beck.
Redhead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like it was like his first event as like the esports director.
I remember seeing him. Yeah, he was not happy.
But yeah, and that was back when Riot at that point had one song. They had commissioned one song from one composer, and it was Silver Scrapes. And that
Still
used to be
slaps.
their song.
Yeah.
You can still hear it if a best of 5 goes to 5 games, which this fucking LCS playoffs you heard all the time because everyone went to 5 games. Mm-hmm. But back then that was the only song they had, so it was on repeat for like 30 minutes as they tried to get the fucking servers back online.
It's amazing that I still like this song. God, what a ride. Yeah, we've been to a lot of events. I also just enjoyed going to once Riot came up with their big they built like their big campus, you know? LCS was happening close by pretty regularly, and we went to that once or twice, just like a regular old
just
LCS.
Walking distance, just go for the day.
So
nice.
fun. If you're ever in LA, you don't have to go to a big event. Just going to an LCS live day is a blast.
Yeah, it's a ton of fun.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. And one thing that they've always done that I liked is that they don't try to make money off of like food and drinks. So if you're buying like a hot dog and a soda or something and like some candy to go with it, it's not like a baseball game where you're paying like $12 for this stuff. Like they just charge you like $2.
It's nice.
Yeah. It's great. Okay. Another one. Oh, plays you remember that you're proud of. So in your history of League, can you remember something that you've done that stuck with you?
So there were a few. I would say the first one that comes to mind is during the Rumble finals.
Yeah.
When I was playing Tarek and it was like a Baron pit fight.
I remember this. And because I was sitting right next to Riv, who was casting it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I remembered that was like old Tarek too, with this little dazzle stun and everything. And they had come to contest Baron from us. And I was like, guys, I think we can fight this. Like, let's just peel off Baron and fucking do it. And they came to contest, and I flashed over the Baron pit and just like stun alt Q'd or stun alt W'd their I think it was like their jungle or whoever was trying to like lead the charge, and almost 100-0'd him before they even got into the pit. But we went on to win that fight and I think win the game off that. I don't remember, but
probably, yeah,
that was exciting.
Yeah.
The other one was just during a playtest thing when Nami was coming out, and I was playing, I was covering mid for my mid laner, and then I forget who it was. Someone tower dove me, who, first of all, the player was way better than I was. You'd get that a lot in playtest because there was no balancing. You'd end up playing against like the best fucking rioters. But someone way better than me tower dove me, and I managed to kill them under turret as Nami, and it made me so happy.
Nami's harder to tower dive than I think people realize.
Yeah.
I don't have really a lot of specific plays because I'm not very good at League.
That's not true. Chat goes crazy at least once a stream for some crazy shit you do.
Who is?
Chat.
Oh, chat.
At least once every stream you do something fucking nutty, and everyone's like, holy shit.
I don't think so.
Fucking
Did you forget
Lulu
my
God.
name? Oh. Okay.
No.
So speaking of Lulu, one game I remember, I played ranked very briefly, and I've told you about this. I just kind of played enough to get ranked, and then I got myself into silver, I think, because I was placed in bronze, and then I got into silver. Not a lot of games. But I remember I was playing a Lulu game, and this was before I could really recognize when I was having a good game or if I was playing very well. It wasn't good enough to like notice that. But I remember like suddenly in chat, people were like, "Yo, this Lulu's fucking so good," and like they're like, "Yeah, oh my god, this Lulu just saved my life so many times." And I was just like, "Oh, thanks." And then I immediately followed it up with a misfortune game that I just bombed so bad, and everyone started making fun of me in the chat.
Aww.
So that's League, baby.
That's League, baby.
The highs are high and the lows are low. Other than that, I do remember, I think anytime that I do something that impresses you is like really special and memorable, and I get really proud of myself. You're the only one I ever really want to impress.
Oh, but you impress me all the time.
No, not in League.
Yeah.
They was yelling at me because you just dove into the enemy team and I'm not fucking there.
And you still save my life sometimes.
I try. Flash over walls and stuff. Try to find you. I'm also not a very aggressive support, and I was less so back in the day, but I remember I was playing Nami, and we were chasing someone, and I flash bubbled them, and you were so impressed. Like, it was a yelling out, it was like a Mark level enthusiasm. If you've ever played League with Mark Mark will hype you up so fucking much. It's every time you land a stun, he's like, "Oh, nice stun," and I'm like, "Oh my
Fucking
god,
superstar."
I need Mark to play with us more because I just need Mark to like hang around and be like, "Oh yeah, you did this. It's just amazing."
There needs to be like a caster downloadable pack that's just Mark
Just
gassing
Mark
you up every
hyping
time
you
you,
up all the
every CS you get, every skill shot you hit.
It would be like when you're playing DDR.
Yes.
You're like on a roll. You're breaking out in sweat. I just need that, but it's Mark. Yeah, so that was another time I remember. I wish I could remember more because I know I've had moments. I know I've had good games with champions and stuff, but
I have a guilty admission.
oh,
Back when I used to work at Riot, we have like the player support tools where you can like see chat logs and shit. Anytime I shit on someone particularly hard in lane, I would always go check the chat logs for that game to see if his team was flaming them for how bad they were losing.
oh my god, John! Because Mark wasn't there gassing you up, you had to do it yourself.
Exactly.
Did you see it? Oh, what? Did you
I
ever
did
see it
sometimes.
occasionally?
Yeah.
No, I get it, man. I'd love to see that shit. Not that I want to see people getting flamed in game, but if I'm the reason they're getting flamed, like, okay, if you lose really hard and, and you have like a terrible game and your team says support gap, it hurts so bad. But at the same time, if the enemy team says support gap because I kicked their ass, a little tiny part of me is like, happy they said it. But also, please don't say that shit. It's so mean. What other questions do I have? You put this one. First champ you played for the lore. Which I don't think I necessarily have one. Most champs I've played because I got stuck with them in ARAM and then I realized that I liked them. Maybe when Jinx came out, I might have played her for the lore.
I think the first champ that I got very into just kind of, and this was actually maybe not necessarily lore, but more like voice lines and shit, was Kled.
Yeah, you're right.
You're right. I was very into his whole thing.
You wanted so badly to enjoy playing Kled.
Yeah.
And like as a gameplay thing. Yeah.
It didn't, I don't think it clicked with me as well as I was hoping it would, but like, I loved fucking listening to him talk to me while I played regardless. I think Wukong was the first one like that I picked for. It wasn't even his League lore because his League lore was different. I was just like, I remember the Monkey King. I love the fucking Monkey King. It's cool as hell. And then his gameplay was exactly what I wanted it to be too. I did all the game tests for Wukong, and oh god, juking with his fucking W was just the most fun thing.
We gotta do Wukong bot, huh? I think we talked about that before. I never did it.
I would play Wukong bot. I still love playing Wukong.
Lulu, maybe?
Even after his changes.
Yeah. I mean, he's just better now.
Technically, they made him better, but he's different.
Well, that kind of can bring us to our favorite pre-rework champ. I did kind of talk about Caitlyn. She's the only one I maybe feel that way towards. And I do understand Caitlyn is so much better now. And I remember, like, when I played Caitlyn, she did not get picked in pro games, y'all. People did not play Caitlyn because she was bad. And now she's not. But I don't really have, aside from like Scion, just because I miss Scion's stupid goofiness, I definitely don't miss his old gameplay. Although AP Scion used to be like it. Yeah. Which is really funny.
Yeah, I remember that shit.
Yeah, but we talked about yours. You want to talk about yours?
Mine is probably still Graves.
Yeah.
Old Graves was like my favorite champion.
Yeah, they really changed him, and I didn't realize like
I'll say it. I don't like his I liked his old kit.
Yeah.
It really clicked with me. I don't like how his auto attacks work now. I don't really like his new Q. He was a real like, he was my style of AD carry, and that's what he was at the time, an AD carry. Yeah, he was like aggressive. He gained, fucking magic resistant armor for constantly diving in. It was great. Yeah, I miss old Graves sometimes.
That's a shame. Is there a champion you're hoping gets a rework soon? On the same kind of level? I'm trying to think of anyone.
I
I feel like anyone I want to get reworked would be for not for me to play them. It's so so they're not like so fucking busted anymore. You know, like I think Silas is not working. I think Silas needs a rework. Someone needs to take a look at Silas, please.
I'd be curious if they could do something cool with Nasus.
That'd be interesting because the farming of the Q gets kind of boring, I think.
It's a very PvE style thing because like they've done something similar with, Vhagar. He also have like the permanently stacking abilities, but like they made him a lot more fun and interactive. Like Nas and like you can also
John,
like
I'm so dumb.
I'll go for it.
You asked about playing a champion not only for the lore but for their voices. Fucking Vhagar. I played Vhagar back in the day simply because I thought he was the funniest thing I've ever heard. I still adore Vhagar. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
One of the old lore stories I do specifically remember was Vhagar and one of his failed heists that they talked about in the Journal of Justice.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, like they found a way to make him. It's got like infinite scaling, but like his kit's not boring. It's interactive, and like if you get a really really fed Vhagar, he's gonna 100 to 0 you, but he's not gonna 100 to 0 your whole team.
No.
Whereas like, Nasus is kind of boring, and if he stacks his Q enough, he will one-shot your whole team, and there's nothing you could do about
And
it.
he'll just run it down, kind of like a Scion right now, like Suicide Scion.
Yeah, he's just like a ticking time bomb that's not fun to play or play against.
I agree. I don't like those types of champs either. I would like to see a Shaco rework. Not just for gameplay. I do think I think they could do more fun stuff with his gameplay that I don't really like the way he plays right now. But something very Fiddlesticks-esque, if we want to talk about lore. They really did so well with Fiddlesticks.
So fucking good.
And I'd love like a Shaco video and like a song and stuff like that really hypes up the horror of Shaco. That would be a lot of fun.
That'd be so good. I remember, God, this was not our first office, but our second office, and very early on, there was a guy on our tech team named June, and he was a Shaco main.
Oh, yeah.
And he was transitioning out of player support and into champion balance, and one of his first things was that he was going to be in charge of reworking Shaco. So that Shaco rework has been in the works since 2012.
So I'm going to go ahead and say it's probably not still in the works.
Or it's just been, it's still in the works, and it's just gone through so many different versions.
There's going to be a movie. We just don't even know.
I remember our very first Riot Rumble. June was our jungler.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was before there were different... Oh, and that one wasn't a Riot Rumble. That was a studio Rumble. That was... I don't think we had enough people internally to do an internal tournament. But there were a bunch of other video game companies that wanted to play against us in League. So we had like 4 or 5 teams internally. And then we had like Microsoft, Rockstar, like all these other companies would make teams of 5, and we had a full tournament that way. And we actually got pretty far. I mean, one of the teams was like, all the play testers and shit. So we actually ended up losing to them, but
I kind of remember that.
we did pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was playing Sona.
Before your Tarek days. All right. How do you feel about the state of League now compared to when you started playing?
Good and bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there are certain things that are just very cool. Like the way they changed up dragons, I like that a lot.
That's true.
It's a lot of fun. The little things like the plants in the jungle, like those are great. I love those. They make for a lot of really fun moments.
I remember like League before this, and they've been in the game so long that they still feel new to me. The plants in the jungle still feel kind of new to me, and they're not at all.
Yeah. Balance wise, like I feel like, I don't know. I feel like everyone has like this like sweet memory of whatever their like favorite season was.
Yeah.
Where like, this is when balance was great. And everyone's idea of when that is different, and probably based on whenever their main position was strongest.
As a support player, I'm going to say that was never. So maybe the Ardent
meta.
That was so. They nerfed that so fucking quick. They were like, supports are doing well. No,
fuck them. I think it wasn't even the supports doing well. It was that everyone wanted a piece of that support pie, so all the non-supports started building it too.
Yeah,
ruined it for everyone.
That happens a
I feel
lot.
like that. I know that
items.
happens all the time.
Yeah.
Anytime support's like, oh, we're relevant now. All the other lanes are like,
we'll build this now.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna build
take
a moonstone.
yoink,
Fuck
mine.
Yeah.
I think, honestly, my favorite is just like, the season 2 type shit where it wasn't necessarily that it was good. It was that everybody was bad. Like, nobody knew what the fuck was going on. Nobody knew that they were supposed to take certain things, certain places. No one knew what to build. Like, and no one would bitch at you if you didn't do it right. So, like, there was a lot of really cool things that were, that came out of that. Like, a lot of really cool innovations that you don't see as much anymore. You still do sometimes, but like, I remember just the counter jungling. Counter jungling was not a thing for the longest time. You farmed your own fucking jungle and you stayed out, and then fucking Diamond Prox from Moscow 5 was like, I'm gonna take Shyvana and I'm gonna go to their jungle instead of my jungle, and then I'll go handle mine, and then I'll just keep fucking doing that until I'm so strong that no one in the game can deal with me. But like, yeah. So I do miss those days, because especially now, like, if someone wants to get like really, really fucking good, like, it's much easier to do, which is, it's a good thing. Like, the practice tool and shit like that, amazing. We asked for it for so long, but I do kind of miss the days when like just everybody sucked.
I definitely miss from the old days, like, League's always been toxic to an extent, but it's definitely worse now. And I would say it's pretty rare to get like kudos from the enemy team now. Now, I mean, granted, I turned off all chat because it was so bad. I had to turn off all chat. But it used to not be like incredibly uncommon for the enemy like team to be like, oh, good play, good flash there, and they will compliment you, things like that.
And being able to honor your enemies after the game, I miss that.
I miss that so much. I definitely appreciate, as a support main, that more people can ward now. There was a time as a support you were the only person warding, because you spent all your money on wards. There weren't warding at like items. You had to buy all the wards, and no one else fucking bought them. Maybe the jungle would sometimes, but otherwise not really, especially once the laning phase was over. Although that's still a problem these days, is once the laning phase is over, people fucking forget to ward, at least at our level.
Yeah.
As far as
back before trinkets, back before they even had like
before trinkets,
before even sight stones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you had to buy oracles.
Like that. You'd all race to kill the person that had oracles, because that was the only.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I forgot about that. Yeah, I don't love the meta now. I would say it's been tough. That's something we've been complaining about for like well over a year. Just that full tank lifesteal healing meta.
Neither of us build a lot of bruisers.
We
and
don't
I feel like
like
the
bruisers.
meta's really like favored bruisers for a while
Bruisers
now.
tanks are really the meta, and it's always like my least favorite when tanks get in the meta again. It's not my fave. So that I'm not loving, but we can still have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was mostly our questions, except for choosing one champion for every role.
Okay. Obviously Kennen top. Mm-hmm. I'd do Wukong jungle.
Sure.
Probably LeBlanc mid. Tristana bot.
Yeah.
And
I'm trying to guess your support. Rakan? Yeah.
Support.
I would do, if I can only pick one, Zyra support. Can Senna do AD carry? Because I'd probably pick Senna. Mid, Lux. She's not very good mid, but I would still probably take her mid over anybody else. Maybe Ahri. Well, I'm not great with her. Top lane, Karma, if I can. Is that still a thing? Or top Lulu.
You could make it
No,
a thing.
I'd probably top Lulu, actually. Jungle, Maokai. Okay. Or Nautilus.
Especially with his new...
Yeah, I haven't played the new
ult.
Maokai. Yeah, it's our history with League, I guess. It's very important to us. We have a lot of League art in our house. Our cats are both named after League characters. Our daughter has a League character name. Yeah, it's something that's been a part of our lives for a long time and probably will stay a part of our lives.
As long as League is a thing, probably.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like we only really got back into it pandemic times.
Yeah.
We started playing ARAMs with some friends, and then we added more friends. And every night for many hours till like 3 a.m., we would just play ARAMs mostly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we decided to do a podcast.
Yeah. And that's our life now. Well, we'll see what we do next. We don't know how long Mark's going to want to, have paternity leave and everything. We'll try to think of another episode to do, though, if Mark's not ready by next week. I don't think he will be, and I don't blame him. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll think of something.
We'll think of something.
We'll have more time to prep this time, so maybe we'll have, it'll be tangentially lore related at
I
least
think
for
so.
you.
We got some really good ideas, and then we kind of thought at, the very last second, we should record an episode this week. Yeah. So that's what we're doing. But if you want to kind of keep up with things, we have a Discord. It's linked in our Twitter. And we also have a Twitter. It's at Loreheads. We post these on YouTube as well. And John has some fun parody songs there.
And hopefully, at some point soon, I will also have some YouTube videos there from the stream.
Oh, yeah.
Since every other week I plan on streaming indie games on stream. And the goal is to put parts of those streams as videos on the YouTube to kind of introduce people to indie games they may not have heard of or might be interested in. So those should, if I can get motivated, those will be there too.
We do have a Twitch. It's twitch.tv/Loreheads. John streams on Saturdays. Every other week he's going to do an indie game or TFT. Maybe throw some League in there. I was actually going to ask if you wanted to play some regular League tomorrow night, but
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm trying to stream Mondays. I'm saying trying because I didn't stream this last Monday, although this episode's not going out until next week. But yeah, I'm gonna try. We'll see. It's hard. Mark, God, you're John. John's going back to work.
We're married.
John's going back to work, and I feel like it's a little bit harder for me to get into a streaming mode when we've had a tough day with our daughter or something like that. It's a lot of emotions attached to all of that. So we'll see, but I am gonna try to play League more, kind of take the stream more seriously, maybe play ranked at some point. But I've been talking about that for a long time and haven't had the balls to do it, so we'll see. We also have a Patreon. Thank you so much to all of our patrons.
And a very special thank you to our Medarda and All Chat tier enabled patrons: Chloe Things, Crow, King of Hearts, Mylect, Phantom, Rel, Shupa Mustache, and Techno Robert. You guys are amazing, and if this was our League history, you're our League future.
Oh my god. Seriously, thank you all for, being patrons. It's pretty amazing. That website, is it patreon.com/League of Loreheads?
I think so.
Yeah. We haven't posted on there too much. The last thing we did was there's a bonus episode where me, John, and Mark watched the Warcraft movie, and that was a lot of fun. We definitely want to watch more video game movies and do episodes about them. That was a blast. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. I think that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening, and join us at some point in the future when we're talking about something.
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 Bye.
Bye.